Hi, I'm Lilly Knoepp. I'm Senior Western North Carolina reporter for NC Local. I'm here with our politics expert and political scientist, Chris Cooper at Western Carolina University in Asheville. We're here to talk a little bit about the 5 biggest takeaways you have from Western North Carolina politics. You know, there were a lot of big races in the region. Talk to me a little bit about what really stood out to you overall.
In terms of percentage of the vote, right? So actual voter turnout rate looks like it was probably up a little bit. So people were interested, people were engaged, people showed up to the primary. And in this world where a lot of general elections are foregone conclusions, I think that's a really positive thing for democracy.
You know, in Western North Carolina, we've been having a lot of discussions about those primary voting locations.
Mhm.
Do we know yet how that impacted turnout?
Yeah, we don't yet know that. I do want to do some analysis of that coming up soon. So, the couple of things I want to look at in particular. So, Western Carolina University had a site on campus since 2016. That was then taken away this time. We'll see if it comes back for the general. We don't know. But there are questions we can ask like, did it actually change the percentage of young people who showed up and voted early in Jackson County? I don't know the answer yet, but we'll know the answer soon. Madison County also saw a decline in by one in terms of their number of voting sites. So that's another one I think to pay attention to.
The NC 11 congressional race, that's a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
They represent over 15 counties in Western North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. Incumbent Chuck Edwards won pretty
Mm-hmm.
handily, but there have been a lot of eyeballs on the Democratic race. What stood out to you in Jamie Yeager's win?
It was an impressive victory. By that I mean it wasn't even close, right? So we thought Jamie Yeager was a front runner. We thought that because of money, he brought in about $750,000, whereas his next highest opponent raised a little over $100,000. He also got the DCCC, which is the campaign arm of the Democrats in Congress, essentially saying, "Hey, let's put out a bat signal and say, donors, send your money right here to Jamie Yeager to turn this district from red to blue." So we're curious to see what would happen. Jamie Yeager won every county in Western North Carolina. He won convincingly. It's going to be a really interesting race. It's an uphill battle for the Democrats, but this is the best chance the Democrats have to flip a seat in the state of North Carolina. And except for the ones in Virginia with redistricting, possibly in the entire Southeast.
Wow. What did you see at the local level? There were a lot of
Mm-hmm.
local races on the ballot.
Yeah, so in Jackson County, we saw a change in incumbent losing. So a guy named Mark Letson, who is currently the chair of the Jackson County Commission, he took sort of a stance opposite the rest of his commission on a library issue that I know you've covered a lot, where the Jackson County decided to leave the Fontana Regional Library Commission. Mark Letson lost his reelection, and a guy named David Rogers won, who's positioned a little bit to the right of Mark Letson. I think that's a really interesting one. Over in Haywood County, locally, we saw a longtime sheriff named Bill Wilkie also lose. So it was not a great night to be an incumbent in Western North Carolina.
That's really interesting. Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on the sheriff's elections
Mm-hmm.
here in Western North Carolina, and Bill Wilkie was definitely a big one.
Mm-hmm.
The Cherokee County Sheriff
Mm-hmm.
and Graham County Sheriff. I think Cherokee County Sheriff, who has kind of taken over the role since Dustin Smith retired, he's gonna stay in that spot.
That's right.
And the primary was the election for this one. There's no Democrat on the ballot, so
And
that's over.
that's right. And that's what we tend to see a lot in sheriff's elections, actually. The number of competitive general sheriff elections is tiny. Most of the time, sheriffs run unopposed in the general. The primary, again, is where the action is.
Yeah. What else did you see in terms of kind of anything that surprised you in Western North Carolina?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we think about the state legislative delegation, right? So, Mike Clampett represents the 119, which is um, uh, Jackson County and Swain County and Transylvania County. And then Mark Pless represents Madison County and Haywood County in the 118. A lot of eyeballs on those, both of those races statewide. People weren't sure what was going to happen, who was going to hold on. On the 119 side, a woman named Anna Ferguson was the beneficiary of about $60,000 spent on behalf of her campaign through an independent expenditure. Plus, also had a tough challenger. Mike Clampett won actually pretty handily. I think really actually a surprising amount given that he's raised a couple of grand. Anna Ferguson is the beneficiary of about $60,000, right? She was campaigning hard and she lost, frankly, pretty big. Mark Pless, the opposite thing happened. That's an incumbent who went down. And I think that's a really interesting and potentially influential one statewide in terms of, what kind of voice that we're hearing from Western North Carolina, because that race is probably going to be in Republican hands come November.
Yeah. What do you have your eye on for November as we're, wrapping up this top five takeaway?
Sure. I think the big thing is NC11, right? So Chuck Edwards versus Jamie Yeager. We thought that's what was going to happen. That is what's going to happen. That is clearly going to be the thing that we're going to pay the most attention to. I would expect to see Helene relief, or what some people would say lack thereof, be the number one campaign issue, in addition to the national issues about affordability we see everywhere.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks.